He's what I thrive to be in life. Just sit there and wait for a meal to come to me and not have to worry about working out, and it's okay to be blobby. Goals.
Howdy folks, Brian Kusko here at Redline Report, and today we're going to sit down with Leia of Shamrock Scales. Leia is a vet tech. She flies through the air on trapeze. She has all kinds of really cool animals that she's going to share a couple of today. Thank you for watching Redline Report. Just a reminder, Redline Report is brought to you by Redline Shipping. Link down in the description if you would like to use that service. Let's go. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I'm sure I did because I saw it spelled out too. Like my daughter's name is Leia.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
And it's spelled the same way.
Well, I was an 80s baby, so Star Wars, but then my mom, because she's Hawaiian, they wanted something that was like, that sounded Hawaiian, and my dad was like, we should watch Star Wars, and then she listened to it, and she went, perfect. So nice. I mean, it's spelled like Leia, just had the so right. It worked out.
Daughter's name was cool. But you are a vet tech, veterinarian.
Mm-hmm. Vet tech. So I specialize in emergency and critical care, which is like the hardest burned out profession. And then when I was in LA, I did have the honor of working on some of the LA zoo animals, which was a lot of fun because they would bring it to our hospital because we were the biggest hospital on the West Coast. So we had the only hospital big enough, like CT-wise, MRI machine-wise, big enough for like a lion and things like that.
Wow.
So
you would have a lion.
We would have lions. I actually shaved and put a catheter in a meerkat, and I saved the fur from the meerkat and I put it in a little like tube to save, and to this day I still have it because I was like,
that's crazy.
So, it's wild, but yeah, didn't get to work on the orangutan, but I got to like just be present for like her scans and MRIs because she was having like reproductive issues. So they brought her to the hospital, and it was just wild to see an orangutan like there. But they were like, just don't touch her hands because even though she's out and sedated, she can still clamp. So I was like, oh, okay.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, they're super strong.
Super strong, super big. We had this gurney that I meant for like larger people as well, and she hung over the side because she was just so like massive.
Wow.
So I originally was a dancer. So I grew up doing like ballet, acting, dancing, the whole 9 yards, and then needed a regular job when the dancing didn't pay the bills. Shocker. And then when I couldn't dance anymore, I started doing circus arts. And so I did circus arts and taught kids how to do like all the silks and the hoops and flying trapeze and all of that for like the last 12 years. So it's been fun. So the vets like pay the bills and the circus parts like entertain me artistic wise. And that's actually how Blaine and I met. He was a trapeze artist.
Okay.
So we just happened to like be at the same school, and I was like, oh, he had an 8-pack at the time, and he was like, blonde, luscious curls, and I was just like, hot for him. And I'm like, hey, 12 years later, we're still together. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. Fun.
That's a wild existence, flying through the air.
It is. It's a lot of trust, and you have to be, which is funny because I don't like being picked up all the time necessarily, but I love like flying or being up high. But I have to be like wrapped and touching something, so I have like a ground state. So, yeah.
What a trip. So how does all that translate? Well, the vet thing, obviously, never mind.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, vet thing translates to animals. So that you have been working with frogs, you've been working with snakes. Like, how did you get into this side of things?
I think like most kids, you're very curious just about life, and you go out in the backyard and you see something fall out of a tree, and you're like, oh, I have to examine it. Let me be a part of it. So it started from there, and I used to pick up every single bug creature that just happened to be in our yard. And my parents never said no to that. They were always very encouraging, like, yeah, go lift up that brick, see what's underneath it. And we find these like big, potato bugs, and be like, oh, these are awesome. And my dad actually was the first, he brought a frog home one time. I don't know where he got it from, but we had it for a couple years. And that was kind of like the first intro to owning reptiles. But we always had dogs, so it was like we were always a big animal family. But in LA, like we can't have, we didn't have a huge yard or anything, so we couldn't have all the big things. But on the day that I graduated high school in 2004, we actually got our sulcata tortoise, and she was like this big, and I still have her, and she's here with me in Denver, and she's like, 80 pounds now, but yeah. I love her. She's 20 plus years old.
Don't be ashamed of the 04. I graduated in 99, so you...
Woo! Elder millennial. Here we are.
So what species and why?
So I think like most people, I kind of started with that one intro snake, which was a ball python. And I was actually deathly afraid of snakes when I was in my teenage years because you just, you think you see snakes, you're like, okay, danger, bad. And so I never wanted to touch them. So I was always into like lizards and chelonians of all kinds. And then it wasn't until I think actually I went to a reptile super show. I think I was like 20, like 22. And all of these snakes were around, obviously. And I said, oh my God, they're so pretty. But I didn't want to hold one because I was embarrassed. I was like, I don't want to admit that I was the one vet tech that was like, oh, I don't want to hold a snake. It's really nervous. So what I did, because I wanted to do it in private, I went to all the local shops and said, can I just hold a snake? And they let me do it. And as soon as I held them and kind of realized, oh, they're pretty awesome, I fell in love. And it was like the intro drug. And within the first year of me owning a ball python, I had like 12. So I went hard, I went fast, went very, very deep, and then just realized how cool they were. And then got to learn, oh, you can actually tell their subtle behaviors and how to read them. So, it was really cool. But
Yeah.
I felt so stupid that I was like so deathly afraid. And then I was like, oh, they're actually really cool.
Well, I love to hear that, and just because like I was just talking with the Palm Street folks who are here this weekend about like snakes and that whole situation of like being afraid of them versus that it's an irrational fear, and then once you hold one and you kind of realize that, and then I also told them the little factoid of like, and you either have like 1 or 2 or 10
Or
and
200. You're like, oh, it went fast.
I love that you just like confirmed all of that for me.
Oh, yeah, sorry. It's like you just go hard. You go balls to the walls crazy. But what's funny is that I had tarantulas growing up too. So you would think, okay, tarantula versus snake, you would think the snake would be kind of the more friendlier of the two. But for some reason, spiders never freaked me out.
That's something I've noticed as well when it comes to like talking with people about
Really?
their fears in general public, and just like I've talked to a lot of folks over the years, done doing the educational programs, talked to hundreds and hundreds of people about this topic, and there are so many people that are either afraid of snakes or afraid of spiders, and it's very rarely both.
Interesting.
Very rarely, you'll almost never find someone that's
Wow.
like I'm afraid of snakes and spiders. It's either or.
I've heard too. I've had people like they come to my house and obviously go in the reptile room and they're like, wow, wow. I've had some that prefer the bigger snakes versus the small, kind of slinkier, kind of colubrity type ones. They're like, oh, the little ones freak me out. And I went, really? And then I have one friend who likes all the snakes, but she doesn't like white snakes.
Same.
It's
I've got all that too.
it's so
Yeah.
funny, and I'm like, oh, I think the white snakes are beautiful. So weird, very, very strange.
Yeah, my buddy who's the youth pastor at our church, he came over one time to like face his fear of snakes and wanted to like deal with that. And I didn't know that I've got a whole room of snakes I could choose from to hand to him.
Yeah.
I didn't find out till literally almost a whole year later. He's telling this story to the students about how he had this like nightmare of like this cobra man who's in the room, just like this white snake, this all white snake thing. And when he came over that time, a year before I heard that story, and I'm like looking for, well, which snake should you hold to help you get
Yeah.
over fear? I literally picked up a blue-eyed leucistic, just all white snake. Like, this is the one for you.
It's like,
I
oh
had no idea
God.
that he had
Oh,
like
God.
nightmare of white snake.
Well, it's funny you mentioned like pastor. So I grew up Catholic, as Irish and Hawaiian, Filipino, Catholic. We would go to like the blessing of the animals every year. So I'd always bring like my dog, and I would always bring like my tortoise. And I was always the one girl that had something that wasn't a dog or a cat, just like, hey, Monsignor, can you bless my tortoise? And he was always like, oh, and so he'd like spray holy water on it. It was hilarious. Everyone's like, what is that? Oh yeah, it's a tortoise. So pretty fun.
That's amazing.
I know.
So obviously you got these two animals. Why did you choose these two animals? Let's take a look. Do you mind pulling out
So
this? Let's start
I
with the
chose
snake.
these. So this is a Madagascan Dumeril boa. Chose them because it is my love child of the season. So Dumerils, if for anyone out there who have bred Dumerils, know the frustration that it takes a very long time to get them to just produce anything, and they don't produce massive litters. So we got 8. 2 were not viable, so we had 6 at the end. But even then, it's like the previous time I had bred her, I think I only got 1. So, and that's not uncommon for some Dumeril boa breeders. You'll often hear stories of, oh, I only got 4 this year, or only got 2 this year. So when we moved from LA to Colorado, we had our temps dialed pretty good. But then when we moved here, even with Colorado has very bipolar weather, just kind of gearing all the temps and figuring out what she was responding to as far as weather-wise was a little difficult. So what I would normally do in LA, I had to kind of tweak a little bit here, just because in LA we don't truly have the
Weather.
cold weather, it's sunny year round. And here, I was like, oh, it snows, it rains, one day it's 70, last weekend it was 20 with snow. So trying to dial in her breeding behavior and looking at the subtle signs was actually more difficult than I thought, because I thought the natural drop and the pressures and the weather was going to be a really good, like, oh, it's going to be easier. No, it wasn't. And I think the stress of us moving also affected her as well. So we haven't had a litter from her in like 5 or 6 years. So
Oh,
the
wow.
fact that like we got one, we have beautiful babies. I just brought them because it was like a triumph and a success that we finally have figured out how she is now, which is a testament, because Dumerils are stubborn and she will frequently kind of, if she's not in the mood, you'll see her like chuck the male, which is not uncommon. We're like, okay, we got to pull him out. She's not ready. But they're beautiful, and I love that they're ground boas. We also have a BCI, that likes to climb, but I love the ground boas. You look in their terrariums or their racks, and you see them kind of buried, ready to go, and they're just very cool snakes, and I love them, and I love the accents of the pink on the snakes as well. There's nothing fancy with the morphs going on. Maybe one day one will pop up in a collection, but they're pretty much all from the same lineage at some point in time. So we will see.
Yeah, I don't think that, I mean, I say this as somebody who breeds ball pythons, but I don't think that morphs are necessary to have a full creation
Agreed.
for a snake.
Yeah, agreed. And I love that the boas have this very angular head and have like a little stash. And I love that the Dumerils have this like floral kind of pattern. And it looks very, very cool.
Yeah, it's
And
really cool.
every single baby has a slightly different shadowing on the edges, and they have different bow ties on them. And they're just so cool. And I think it really brings you back to a simple species that was made to survive a certain way, and this is what nature wanted them to be. So this is why I chose it for today.
Cool. And I don't know if you've noticed it, but as I look at it from this angle, I'm starting to realize that there's a bunch of shamrocks on the back there.
I did not plan that, but I will take full credit for it.
All of these little things, if you look at these sections, like these where they intersect here,
Oh, you're right.
it's all super shamrocky.
I totally planned it. So, except not at all.
That's pretty cool.
But
And
yeah, our females too, kind of getting up there in age. She's like pushing 18, 19. So I was a little worried that we weren't going to get another litter out of her, but we did. And she's thriving. So hopefully, once, because they always say like every other year off because they take so long to incubate internally. And so we're hoping next year we'll have more.
Yeah, awesome.
Now that we dialed it.
Now, how about the old froggy over here?
This is Hulk. He is a Blue Samurai Pacman, and if he jumps at your lens, I apologize.
That's all good. I've had many things do that.
So yeah, blue is not, some people will kind of argue that blue is not necessarily naturally found in nature and animals. Shocker. So the Blue Samurai is kind of it's more of like a darker green hue.
It's like a turquoise.
Yeah, it's like a turquoise. But these guys live, if taken care of in captivity pretty well, roughly around 15 years. He is not quite full grown, but he probably is like 90% there. But these guys are pretty cool. We also deal with some of the other morphs as well, but the Blue Samurai is my favorite just because that shocking, like greenish blue teal color. I just love it so much.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And yeah, you're right about that. That's why blue. That's why purple, I think, was the color of royalty for a long time because it was very hard to make. You needed blue, and blue is, like you said, not very commonly found in nature.
Well, what's funny too is green. I think during the Victorian era this certain shade of green was very, sought after by all the wealthy people. And of course it had like all these toxins in it. So years later they find out, oh, it's really bad for you. But, it's funny how certain colors would represent royalty or a sense of like lavishness, you're just like, oh, what humans choose. But, these guys are pretty cool. Of course they eat anything that fits in their mouth.
Yes.
And, if it's your finger, it's your finger. But, he obviously has never skipped a meal.
I've often talked about that with my kids, and my kids are all on the same boat with me now that, like, I have this thing, it's like a daymare, I guess. Like, I'm just sometimes sit there during the day and think about, and look at a frog and think about, like, if this thing was
20 feet.
Yes.
I would fit in its mouth. Oh, 100%. It would just lunge at me. It just gulp me
You'd
down. I
just
was
be
like,
gone. You'd be like more terrifying than a hippopotamus.
oh, 100%. Not as fast, but would challenge it very easily. You're like, oh, hey. But yeah, these guys come from Central and South America, you know, anywhere from like Paraguay, Bolivia, Argentina, Brazil. So they like it nice and humid, not like soaked substrate, but definitely a nice damp, humid kind of environment.
Totally.
Yeah, they eat
Yeah. that's where the terrifying part comes. Like I would fit in the mouth and I would get eaten just because
totally.
I'm alive and I move and I'm full of protein.
100%. Well, when I open up his terrarium, I'll like kind of dump the bag of crickets or whatever I have in there, and you often will see him launch up and grab the bag and just like try to tug it down, and I'm like, oh, so I have to like do it up higher now and shake it down, or else he just leaps out, and I'm like, what? That is your one energy source for the day, bro.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and if you see them burrow, they don't actually kick. They actually kind of spin around like a top, and they go in circles and drill down through the dirt, which is funny. Because I never actually sat there and watched them before, because you just kind of show up and they're like, oh, you're buried all of a sudden, but they will turn and they burrow like deep in the substrate, which is hilarious.
Of course you would.
Mm-hmm. I know.
That's awesome. Well,
He's what I thrive to be in life. Just sit there and wait for a meal to come to me and not have to worry about working out, and it's okay to be blobby. Goals.
Oh, yeah, I'm not going to lie. I have that same feeling. I thought about that just yesterday. Like, why can't I just sit here?
Why can't I?
Do I need to do things?
I know. It's so nice. Ooh.
Well, Leia, I appreciate you taking a moment away from your table. Come sit down and share some animals with us.
Thank you.
Where can people follow your work, and how can people get animals from you?
So we're Shamrock Scales. We're based out of Denver, but we do ship all throughout the U.S. We're on Morph Market. We're on social media like Facebook and Instagram. I don't do TikTok. I just can't get quite down with that. But all the other sources, we're pretty much there, and you just reach out to me either way. And we're here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Brian.
Good job. Big thank you again, Leia, for coming to sit down with us at the show here. And folks, there's the links down in the description to follow all of the stuff that Shamrock Scales is doing. Really cool animals, really cool people, like we like to share here on Redline Report every week. And there will be another person that we're sharing about with their animals next week right here on Redline Report every Tuesday. And until then, y'all take care.